Welcome to SML Total Access, where we break down news, predictions, and more in our Madden League. Now, let's get fired up for SML football.
Hello and welcome back to SML Total Access. I am Primetime 000, joined by Matt and Dan. What's going on, fellas?
That's Super Bowl champion Matt, baby. Let's go!
Yeah, the highest Lombardi count of any show. Just added another one.
Wow.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Let's go ahead. First down, guys. Last season, kind of recap, thoughts on Matt's championship run he had, everything in between that. Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I thought the playoffs were good. I thought a lot of the games were close. A lot of one-score games, a lot of pivotal big moments at the end, which is always good for commentary and the big audiences that we get. We saw a mix of old faces. We also saw some new faces. And really, I think about the whole run on all sides. I think about when I played Prime, you had that post that AR undershot that I picked off. I think about Andrew stepping out of bounds in early against the game against Dan, and then Dan going out of bounds when he probably would have won the game if he stayed in bounds. And then what if Straw doesn't lose to Dom on that Hail Mary? Does he beat Dump? And it's just it's so funny because we play all these games, 17 games in the season, all the playoff games, 28 minutes, and it comes down to one play. And I think it's super cool that the SML is that competitive, that you have multiple games like that coming down to those scenarios. And as far as winning, I mean, those are the kind of games I want to be in, right? I get a lot of criticism for it, but I play my way, whether I'm down 1, whether I'm down 11, whether I'm down 21. I play the exact same way. I don't change it. I think that over 28 minutes, I can outlast you. I might not outplay you, but I think I can outlast you. And I think I did that against Dump in the Super Bowl, where I just kept it close and he made the mistake. And when you do that, I'm going to beat you. And that's what I did. So it's my most proud Madden accomplishment because I did it without any super abilities. I didn't run all over the field with Lamar. I literally did it my way and didn't have a big ability help. So I'm proud of this one.
That's awesome. Dan?
Yeah, Matt, I want to give you all the credit in the world. You did everything you need to. You won games. Again, your way, you won games, not just by flukes or luck or abilities, which, again, I always respect that and always a quality opponent. I think SML runs and Super Bowls and why, we're starting to see a little bit of parity, I guess, over the last cycle now and beginning of this cycle is because we're finding, the competition's much better, but at the same time, there's so much that has to go into it. It's not only how you're playing, but it's matchups. Matchups matter. Kind of luck plays into that too. I think the timing of the patch and the way Matt plays actually worked really in his advantage. Defensively, I should say. Offensively, I don't think affected him too much, but defensively just kind of helped solidify him again as the elite defender. And guys were trying to scramble to figure that out. So it's really cool to see that happen because that's really what the NFL is right now. I mean, the Chiefs have won 2 in a row, but they need luck as far as injuries, or they need luck in matchups, and then they need the talent to be able to win in those moments. So that is pretty cool that we're seeing the same thing happen, and it should give everybody that has some talent an idea that, hey, I can win if I put my talent there and things go my way.
Sorry about that pause. I'm not sure if you could hear that. I was stretching out my jaw. The reality is that run Matt had was one of the greatest runs the SML has ever seen. Not only did he play AJ in the Super Chiefs with still set feet lead, still great ability. He plays me, beats me. Plays Dan, beats Dan. Plays Dump, beats Dump, who won 2 Lombardis last year. That Bears team's better than I thought it was when I looked at the roster. I'm just going to beat the horse because it's not dead, it is alive. Matt showed that you can still win and still compete at a high level in the SML by just playing your style of football. No meta, no cheesy plays. It's just his brand of smash mouth. No go for it on 4th down, punt the ball, kick the field goal. So my new question to anybody who ever criticizes Matt is going to be this, because I see it in chat sometimes. I see it from the Beans of the world. I see it from the Doinks of the world. I see it from the Tinies of the world and people like that. And I'm going to ask this. Next time they're in his stream questioning him for punting on 4th down or in the 4th quarter, how many somebodies you've got? How many do you have compared to Matt? Do you have one? Do you have any? Because if you don't have any, shut up. Matt plays his way and he wins. And I got to respect that. And I respect Matt. What a run that was. A lot of great teams he beat. A lot of great players he beat. That was cool to watch.
Thanks, Prime.
Thank you. I was very passionate about that. Let's move on to 2nd down. The patch has been talked about. Is the game changing? And we'll start with the mastermind, Daniel.
Oh yeah, I mean this is right up my alley. I mean I picked it up right away. Just noticing that the zones themselves just play differently than before, and how people had built an identity and offense around the zones being a certain way, and now they were taken away, and could they adjust? And now we're seeing it again at another level of adjustment because running seems to be back, and now people can run. And now it seems like, can we figure out how to stop the drags, and where's pass rush, and what does that look like? There's no dev games, which we've all now kind of figured out after one season. So the answer is yes, 100% it's changed. The one thing I'll say though is let's put a little caution yet to the idea that this is just Madden 24. I've seen that a little bit in chat. It's too early to say that because we don't know if there's any counters. So just because there's these new things to a new game doesn't mean there aren't ways to stop it. And so that's going to be the new thing we'll find out probably in the next 2-3 weeks. Okay, are there ways to adjust? Are there ways to counter this? And then we'll figure out, okay, this is what Madden 25 is going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, Dan knows this stuff. He sees this stuff better than me, but I don't know if I felt much of a change. Those deep comebacks are still, if it's 3rd and 16, most people are running that deep comeback, and it's usually wide open unless you're in cover 2. My purples do not go after it. I posted a play yesterday against Bean, who went from rocket catching to just running short curls, and I had Roquan Smith playing a zone that should have been right next to Hunter Henry, and he completely runs to the middle of the field for no freaking reason. And leaves Hunter Henry wide open. The only reason I stopped it is Bean ran that play earlier in the game. So as soon as I saw his inside, he was in trips, and as soon as I saw the inside guy go to the flat, I knew it was the same play, and I sprinted over with my user and broke it up. But I had to go all the way across the field. And Dan was at a loss for words when he saw it was not a match coverage. So I think the zones, I haven't noticed it. Maybe my performance, I should have noticed it, but really at the end of the day, the drags are tough to stop because I feel like the defense in their zones, they're always backing up as opposed to waiting and seeing what the defense is doing. So if you want to stop drags, you gotta commit to them, and that's really tough against someone like Dump in the Super Bowl where he always had a route behind it and he would look and hit it. As far as running goes, I haven't really noticed much of a change there. I couldn't stop it since day one. Looking at the stats, our yards per carry is a little inflated, but Henry's was really inflated too. And right now it's really Pacheco and Chase Brown that are above 8, and we're on a really small sample size. Everyone else seems to be in line with what we had last season. So I don't know if anything's really changed a whole lot. I think the zones have gotten a little bit better. I have noticed some of it, but especially the cloud flats. But overall, I feel like the game's the same, and I think hopefully once this hurricane's all taken care of and they get back in the office, we get that big zone patch that they promised us. Because again, we're all guessing because they haven't tuned zones in a patch. I don't think it's all been. I think Dan calls them ghost changes, where they're not in the notes, but they change something, and that's real. That is real. But I want that real patch where it's on paper and we actually get a change.
Yeah, a lot of good points there. And Matt does bring up something which I actually forgot about. The EA did kind of foreshadow a zone patch, and we haven't gotten that yet. I do believe they mentioned that it would be in an October patch, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I do believe, and Dan calls them ghost patches, I do believe they tune things or tweak things, and they don't outright address it. They definitely impacted zones, and I know for sure, based on the way, I think there are the routes that are effective are still effective. They're just not guaranteed to be effective. For example, the comeback route, which I love hitting, as many know, that's not guaranteed anymore. Even deep blue zones will occasionally play that depending on how somebody might do a shade and their zone coverage. So I do believe the game has changed. I'm not a person who practices throughout a cycle. I do scrimmage. I enjoy scrimmaging right beforehand. I'll have 3 or 4 guys. I'll scrimmage a lot, and that's probably how I learn the game the most. Is just I'll play somebody a million times, and I'll maybe add a couple plays in my playbook, and then this time of year, I pretty much that's just what it is, and then I'll slowly adjust to any patch because I adjust on the fly. Now, it kind of cost me because I feel like I had a good read on how the passing game went, and I feel like I was playing really well, and then now I've kind of fallen off a touch. I think I'll get back, but I do believe the game has changed from the perspective of how the zones play certain routes. I also believe the running game has gotten a little bit better, but I don't think it's Madden 24.5 quite. I think people are just running the ball more because they can't throw as well. So I think they're just running the ball well, and they're finding out. Keep in mind, we're just hitting October here, so people are just kind of learning what works and what doesn't in the game. So naturally, people are going to get better at the game, and people are going to find plays that work and don't work. And season 1 is kind of a figuring out period. I know at times it's been mocked as, hey, it's anybody's season, blah, blah, blah. It's not quite that, but there is a period of time where people try to find things out, and I think people are starting to find their strengths. That's my opinion. Dan, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'll just say, I'm hot on a new theory for drag, so give me 2-3 weeks here, and I'll let you know if I figure out how to stop drag.
Was it anything tied to our conversation or something in addition to that?
Yeah, no, so our conversation. So
okay,
I need need bigger sample size to see if it works or not.
Yeah, let me know. Stavo, no, excuse me. Anyway, moving on. 3rd down. So let's just talk positive. Who is most improved? Dan, we'll start with you.
Well, you threw me off there by throwing me the odd question. I thought that was Matt. But anyways, most improved, that's okay. I'm back. I'm good. Most improved. So obviously, it's hard to say most improved because he wasn't here, but just given the way that kind of last cycle went and some of his games earlier on, but I've got to get Bomber right now. He's sitting there at 4-0. He's beat Damon, and he beat Meats, 2 guys that are, usually are probably going to be fighting for playoff spots. So good wins. He, I think, is figuring out the defensive side first, which has always been Bomber's strength. And then at the same time running the ball. So if again, this Madden, I think, might be playing towards that, or at least heading in that direction, playing smart defensive games and then opportunistic offense. So I think Bomber's legit. I think he's going to be taking a playoff spot from somebody last year, and I think we got to pay attention to him. So I got my eye on Bomber right now.
Yeah, I think for me, and again, I'm just going with the totality of it, from last cycle to including last season. I got to go with the easy one, and that's AJ. He was kind of, kicking the can down the road with QBs last cycle there in Minnesota. Couldn't figure it out. Was always just, he was the Mike FML 8-8, right? And now he was. I mean, his offense was insane last season. I know that when I played him the very first game, I think he was up like 28-3 or so. He was blowing me out. I went upstairs and made some pancakes, came back, and he had thrown me a bunch of pick sixes, and I picked up the controller again and beat him. But I mean, his offense was that good. He was just beating the crap out of me. I couldn't stop it. So AJ, you give someone the Chiefs, I think they're going to improve, but it's not as easy as just giving him the Chiefs and a controller. You still have to play the game, and he's found an identity with all that speed. So AJ, and then on the other side, I can't believe I'm saying this, and maybe it's because of how he maneuvers himself. I'm going to go with NYT, who we talked about before as kind of changing. I saw him the other day. Walking on an old lady across the street. He's a new man and he's a new player. He's in the weakest division in the league, although Stavo's, we're going to talk about him in a second. But he is in the weakest division in the league, in my opinion. Some will say the NFC South. But he was on the brink of the playoffs last season. I think he may have even given out a force win or a fair sim or something like that somewhere along the way. And he was right there in the brink of it, ready to make the playoffs. He looks good with that Seahawks team. He just annihilated Colt, Yeah, it was Colt Noel. I can never remember. He just annihilated him, and Colt was actually playing pretty decent ball there in Jacksonville. So I'm going to go with NYT on the NFC side. He's impressing me with my my hometown team there.
Yeah, I actually had both of those guys, so I'm going to make a quick adjustment here. And guy that's maybe improved this cycle, throughout this cycle slowly, even though he did just lose 2 straight. I think he beat AJ this season, and it's Colt 45. He is getting better as a player. I think that last cycle he was okay, and he always has been kind of okay. But I don't think he's a guy you want to face. He's got a very solid defense. When he's on passing the ball, he can make some good throws. I think that he could do himself better if he would look down the field a little bit more instead of throwing to the running back. I think he kind of locks in on that at times, and it costs him. But I think Colt 45 is improving late in his SML career, and that's always kind of fun to watch. If I were to throw out an NFC one, I think, hey, Raider fans 3-1. That after last season he missed the playoffs. Grim Meeper 3-0. That's impressive. So that's 2 guys right there that missed the playoffs. That are right now in the playoff picture and would make the playoffs if the season ended a quarter way through. So that's 2 guys winning games, and got to tip your cap to them. Let's move on to spreading the love. Dan, who you're spreading your love on?
Man, throwing me off again. Now I'm going first all the time. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, I got it. I can handle that. Handle that. Hey, I want to give a little bit of love to 2 guys real quick. One, I want to give a little love to Dump. Dump got a lot of crap last cycle for having a super team, and you mentioned it, Prime. The Bears are good. Let's not act like they're a low level team. But hey, he went through the NFC, made it to the Super Bowl, and gave everything he had. I mean, he was right there to win a Super Bowl. So I think Dump is taking that big step from just saying, hey, I'm going to win by default on abilities, and now I'm gonna go out and win. So just a little shout out for Dump, and then I want to give another shout out to my boy Finns. I know he had to leave for vacation, so he's taking some losses, but he's 2-0.
Yeah.
And for a guy that I think only had one win, although it was a big one because it got Damon into the playoffs last year, he didn't have any user wins, and so he's already was 2-0, and I think we're always a better league when guys like Finns or Mike FNL or NYT, these guys that sometimes flirt under 500 when they're over 500 and they're fighting for playoffs. I think the league is better.
I agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dump as well. I gave him his flowers on Super Bowl, and even before that of he's kind of taken that SFL or set feet lead monitor and gotten rid of it, right? He's passing like crazy without abilities. But since Dan took that one, I'm going to go with, and I certainly wasn't going to give the love to Finns. I don't care about that guy. I'm going to give it to Woods just real quick. It's an even-yeared season, so I'm glad he's back. And then I'm gonna go over to the AFC, and I'm gonna give it to AJ. I think it's really great that AJ's doing well. He's a really good asset to the league. I think he's a primer admin. I know he's an admin in the NCAA league that Bomber runs, and just an all around nice guy. Doesn't cause any problems on the field, doesn't cause any problems off the field. Just real nice family man, Mississippi man. Props to him. And I'm going to share the love with Tiny. Look, the guy committed cycle suicide by taking his team, which none of us thought he would, and he did. So props to him. He continuously votes that he's going to win the AFC South. He votes that the AFC South is the toughest division, and he's 0-3, and he's probably going to be 0-4, and probably 0-5, and probably 1-8. But he took the team. He's taken the beating. He's never going to do it again, but he does it. Chin up, slight smile on his face. So props to Tiny for sticking to his guns no matter what.
That was impressive. I actually had Dump as well on mine, and maybe I wasn't gonna say it since both of you guys said it, but I'm gonna say it anyway. There was a lot of guys who made a lot of passive aggressive comments in social chat, on podcast about Dump having a super team, about Dump having a certain play style. And I watched that playoff run, and he was very balanced with a non-super team. now, I just wish people would admit they're wrong sometimes and bring their flowers when it's due. And I kind of was one of those guys that was like, hey, maybe Dump was going to have a drop off this cycle. And he's not going to have a drop off this cycle. He's going to make multiple Super Bowl appearances and probably win one or two. So I hope some other guys listen to the show and admit they're wrong. Bean, I'm looking at you, for example. There was half of me for a cycle, half of QP for a cycle. There was a lot of people hating on Dump publicly and private. You know who you guys are, so you guys should maybe make a public apology to him. Another guy I want to spread love on, QB Stud. QB Stud. He's in a tough division in that AFC North. He's got Dan in it. He's got Matt in it. Damon is good now. And QB Stud, kind of a SML legend, kind of has a history here. He's still kind of finding his way with that Bengals team. I'm just, keep your chin up, QB. I like your APPG. I kind of mock it at times. I have fun with it. I'm trying to make it a thing in the SML, trying to give it its due, kind of give it its flowers, and I think it's working, by the way. I love you, QB. I love what you bring. I love your APPG, and I think you will get this figured out, and you will win a lot of games.
Why are we giving flowers out? Like, is this like white guys for Kamala Harris kind of voting here? What's going on here?
You never heard "Give Your Flowers"?
I mean, once in a while, it just feels like we've said it like 8,000 times for everybody. It's like the new catchphrase.
Maybe that's where I got it from. Hey, Dan, we're
anyway, that's where I got it from.
It's okay to vote. It's okay to vote Kamala. It's okay. Let's move on. Extra point. Matt, what do you got?
Yeah, this is tough. I think we need to stop doing this 4 games into the season because there's a lot of 2-1s and a lot of 3-1s up there to try and figure out who the top 5 is. But I think I narrowed it down. And at number 5, I've got Dan. And Dan could easily jump up to 1, or he could be higher on other people's lists. But he's only played 3 games. He plays meets later today, I believe, and he's 2-1. He lost to Stavo. He beat me, and then he beat Fins, and that might have been a force. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't matter. You'd have beat the crap out of that guy anyway. The force kept it closer than it would have been. So you're 2-1, playing really well. Obviously, I think it's your team. That team that you've got. Watt was a monster against me. He was a monster in the sim. I think you got that team where you want him. At number 4, I've got Grim or Meep. I don't know what we're calling this guy, but he's the Washington owner. He's 3-0 at 3-1. I'm watching the game against Straw. I think he's going to lose, but he's 3-0 as of this recording. So, hey, hats off to him. He seems to be doing well. It sounds like he drafted well. It sounds like he was hunting through free agency to find. He found like a superstar undrafted free agent. Wow. He I forgot what else he said. I don't know. He said something. Oh, he knew that Kyle Hamilton had re-signed a deal, and I hadn't even tweeted it out yet. This guy might be the NFC version of Dan. He is in everybody's business. So watch out for Grim. At number 3, I've got Bomber. He's 4-0. I think the only reason that Bomber at 4-0 is not higher on my list is who he's beaten. And again, that's no fault of his own. He can't magically play somebody else, but he does have a win against Brawny. Close 17-14 win. He beat Meats by 3. Who Meats is another guy that could steal a playoff spot by not being out of town forever. And then he smacked Colt around, and then he smacked DW around. So I want to see a little bit more from Bomber as far as competition. He's got that big Week 9 game against Stavo, and I know he's going to play Prime twice. So we'll see how that narrows down. But Bomber 4-0, fresh off the boat, doing really, really good. At number 2, I've got QP. Another guy that's 4-0 out there in LA. He beat Straw and he beat Prime, and he beat KP. Those are 3 pretty solid wins there. KP has bounced back. He's leading the North where Dump resides, and then he won that divisional game against Denver. So, and he's got Woods next, and he's got I have to play him. So he's got a pretty nice resume here, and QP might be back, my friends. He's that offense is top 5 in just about everything, and he's got a nice little running back, which means you can't just focus on the pass. And at number 1, I've got Prime. I know you guys will say, "Oh, he's 2-2," blah blah blah. No, just kidding. At number 1, I've got Stavo. Gosh, I know nobody likes him, but this is an unbiased list, and so you got to go with the guy who's performing, and it's Stavo. 26-24 win over Dump. or excuse me, over Dan. And then, yeah, okay, he knocks his division around a little bit, although it was a close win against DW 28-26. If that wasn't a sim, that might have been a sim. He beat NYT, and then he just beat Prime. So, we just talked about my AFC run of beating Dan and Prime, and he just did the same thing, granted not in the playoffs. But he's got a very favorable schedule the rest of the way, and I think Stavo is proving that he can hang with the big dogs, even though he ran from the big dogs. He's got a lot of dev upgrades. His whole line is Superstar or X Factor. That shocked me. This team's only going to get better. So as of right now, just based on resume, I've got Stavo number 1.
Yeah, I think Stavo deserved to be number 1. Probably should have been on the list, but I'm glad Stavo got his flowers. He deserved to get his flowers.
Yeah, he's a guy that probably likes those flowers too.
Well, Dan, any thoughts on the list, or how do you feel about it?
No, I think it's pretty good. I think you're right. Stavo's done the best early on. We'll just say it's early. We'll say he's setting himself up for a folding chair moment, and we'll see what happens by the time the season's over.
Yeah, he's going to choke. But for now, we like you, Stavo. Go take those flowers, put them in a vase, and admire them. Guys, that was the Map 5. I'm Prime Time. That's Dan. That's Matt. Signing off, Total Access. Take it easy.